And tonight we're going to be looking at how can we see how our child's doing in this virtual environment. But before we get started, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you guys face to face for all of the support that you've been giving us this year. When you think of what we've gone through, really since March, it is nothing that teachers parents have ever experienced, children have ever experienced. None of us have ever lived through this either as a child or as an adult, and so we're all learning. But one thing that we can say of our community is that you guys have shown us such love and such grace through this all, and we are so appreciative of that. And then I want to welcome all of our families. As I'm looking, I'm seeing so many familiar names who are joining us, and as well as some new names. And hopefully those of you who have been around Haverty Grace for any amount of time can agree with what I'm about to say. But for us, Haverty Grace is family to us. In every way, we become a family inside those walls. And this year, those walls have expanded to 600 different homes. And so everything that we're doing this year is going to look different, but we hope the one thing that stays the same is that you can feel the love that we have for you and for your children, and just as much as we have felt that love back. And so as we're looking at how we're doing things differently this year, one of the things that really came through was how do we keep engaged with our families? That has always been such a big part of who we are. And so what we wanted to do was start having these monthly opportunities where we can come together with our families, share some things, hear from you how things are going, because now more than ever, this partnership between us is going to be so important. So we hope that this will be something that can become a frequent thing, but we also want to be respectful of your time. And so we are going to try and keep that brief times. So before I continue to ramble about how much we love you, I'm going to move on so that we can get through this evening and be respectful of your time. So as I said, I am the Title I teacher specialist at Haverty Grace, and that's going to make the assumption that that we are a Title I school. And so I wanted to start with a couple Title I business things before we get started. So being a Title I school means that we get extra funding from the state and from the federal government, and it's based upon the percentage of our students that are free and reduced. So at Haverty Grace Elementary, we have about 50% of our population who receive free and reduced meals. And because of that, it allows us to get extra funding. And that funding is used to support all of our learners. And it's divided into two sections. There's the money that helps to support our school-wide program, and then money to help support our family engagement. So with our school-wide, we use that money to help provide materials for our students and for our classrooms. And then we also use it to help fund different positions. So one of the positions that gets funded through Title I is me. And as Title I teacher specialist, I do a lot with our families and our family engagement. I lead that team. And then I work with our teachers to support that program. But we're really lucky this year because we've been able to add 2 new positions to our family. And so I just wanted to share and introduce those positions. So we have Erin Capanos is joining us, and you'll get to hear from her a little bit later, but she is our new math specialist. So she's working with our teachers to strengthen our math program, and she's also working with our students as we're working through new things in math. And then we have Elizabeth Adams. She may look a little familiar to you. She was a first grade teacher last year, and she was also Miss Barnaba last year, but she got married over the summer and she got a new job at our school. So we're very excited for her, and she is our early childhood teacher specialist. So she's working with our early childhood learners, that's pre-K, kindergarten, first and second grade. So she's working with the teachers and the students in those grade levels. So we're very excited that we get to strengthen that program this year, and so you'll see those faces around, so I wanted to make sure you knew who they were. And then when we get to family engagement, a lot of times when people think of family engagement, they think of it as attending events. Also, a lot of you are probably thinking, you know what, I've had a lot of family engagement these last 6 months. I could actually do with a little less family engagement. But for us, what family engagement is kind of falls into these 6 categories. We want our families to be able to be part of the decision making at our school. We want to be able to keep that communication ongoing and two-way between our schools and our home. We want it to be focused on student learning and how we can support our students and work together. We want to make sure we're providing opportunities for volunteering, that we're supporting you with parenting, and that we are collaborating with our community. So tonight, as we look, we're going to really be looking at that student learning piece, because one of the things that we have found is that, we want to make this year in particular, it's so essential that the two of us are working together, that the school and the family, because you're seeing things on that side of the screen that we can't see. And we want to make that we're in communication so we know exactly how to move our children forward. So one of the things, the first thing that we wanted to share with you is on It's Learning, there's a few things that you can do as a parent to be able to see what your child's assignments are, what they've submitted, what their score is, and then what any feedback from the teacher. We don't expect that you're sitting next to your child for an entire day, seeing everything that they're doing. I mean, that's going to be impossible, especially when you have multiple children. So what we want to, but we also know that for a lot of parents, we've heard, they're sitting there doing their work. I'm sitting here doing my work. I'm just assuming that they're, doing what they're supposed to. And that is the expectation. But if you want to be able to kind of check in and see what is it that they're doing, you can do that through It's Learning. So I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you a couple things on It's Learning. So right now I'm signed in. I'm viewing this as a student. So if you were to log into your child's It's Learning page, and go to their homeroom page, you would see probably something that looks like this. The first thing I wanted to point out is that on the right-hand side, it shows you what assignments are due. And if there's any assignments that are overdue, it will show that over here as well. So right now I can see that this reading exit ticket is due tomorrow. And if it's over here, that means that they have not completed it yet. This is their to-do list over here. There's also, this is a list of every assignment that has been assigned that they have not done. Now, this is me as the student, so that's why there's so many. Hopefully you won't see this many assignments over here, but this is one way to see, okay, here are the assignments that it says you need to complete. Have you completed it? When are they due? If you click on it, it will take you right to the assignment, and they can then complete it right there. At the top of the screen, you'll see the follow-up and reports, and that's another place that you can go to get more information. And the two reports that I would recommend looking at is the gradebook and the personal report. So if you go into the gradebook, this has every assignment that has been given, and once it's graded, you'll see the grade here and then any comments, but then you'd also be able to click on here and see exactly what they submitted. So you'd be able to see if it was a written response, what their writing was. You'd be able to see what their math problems were. So that would give you an idea that the type of work that they're submitting and the quality of it. This would be a great way to kind of be able to check in with your child and talk about their writing that they're doing, ask them questions. So you'll be able to see everything that they submit through the grade book. And then also the teachers, as they're grading it, and I'll show you an example. Here's one that has been, where you can see when it hasn't been corrected, here's the score. There was a comment over here. And then if you were to click, you'd see what the child actually submitted. So that's one way to see what they're doing. Again, if you go back to follow-up and reports and you click on personal report, this is going to show you what materials they've accessed, hopefully. I don't know why mine is freezing now, but in the personal report, let me see if I happen to put it over here. All right, so this is a screenshot of the personal report. So this is everything that is in the playlist, and it will let you know whether or not they have accessed that page. So if you're seeing a bunch of red X's, or if you're seeing a lot of red X's in the afternoon, those might be conversations you want to have with your child. I will say seeing a couple red X's here and there would not be something to be alarmed by, because sometimes if they're going to the live instruction, they're not going, the teacher may be showing it on their screen, so your child may not have to open it on their screen, if that makes sense. But this will let you see whether they have, how much they've been able to access on the playlist, which is another way for you to make sure that they are going through things without you having to sit there with them the entire time. So that's a couple tools in It's Learning. Were there any questions about It's Learning that I can answer before we move on to the next part? And if you think of one, just put it in the chat, and we'll get back to it at the end. But the next thing that we wanted to talk about was our math assessments. And so I'm going to turn that over to our math specialist, Mrs. Capanos, and she's going to share a few things through our math platform that you might find useful. So Ms. Capanos?
Thank you, Kristen, so much. And thank you, everyone, for having me. And for those of you that I've met so far, thank you so much for welcoming me into the Habit of Grace family. It has been such a wonderful experience. I'm so happy to be part of the family, and I can't wait to meet for those of you that I have not, hopefully one day in the future soon. It's been nice to be back in the building and see some of the students and being able to work with them. And I look forward to supporting both you and your children through the math journey this year and hopefully in the future. So as we're thinking about It's and teachers using the It's Learning platform to assess your child's understanding of content knowledge, our math platform, the Savvas platform, also has many resources that can be used in order to assess the understanding of content being taught. So in grades kindergarten through second, there are quick checks that will be completed. In kindergarten through fifth grade, there are also practice buddies that your teacher can assign, that the teacher can assign to your child. And then in grades first through fifth, we also have topic assessments. So there's a lot of content outside of the It's Learning platform that your child may be completing within so far as the math program. And I'm going to show you from the student perspective where all that content is housed, how you can access it, and then how you can actually see the individual assignments that were completed to help your child review some of the completed assignments. I will actually be using my my daughter's platform, so you'll see the actual live student version through the presentation. As you're thinking about accessing the Savvas platform, there are two different ways that you can actually access the content. One is directly through It's Learning. So since your child is accessing It's Learning each day and they're familiar with the username and password login, you can go ahead and select the toolbar up at the top where it says Apps and Tools. And within the apps and tools, there are many features that your child accesses throughout the day. The one that you're going to select on is the Envision Mathematics. Within the Envision Mathematics, you would then select Pearson Realize, and it brings you up to their homepage. The two aspects that we're going to focus on is the class component and then the grades. If your child's not logged in to It's Learning, you can also go to the Start page. And on the Start page, there's the Savas Realize tile. And so you would just go ahead and log in with the same username and password that you would use for It's Learning once you select the Savas Realize tile. So accessing the actual components, the two components where you can actually see the assignments being completed is through the Classes tab and the Grades tab. I'll start with the Grades tab because this is generally where you're going to go to see an overview of the assignments that were either assigned and or completed. So when you're looking at the Grade tab, it gives you a summary, but not necessarily specific details. So as I look at the specific information of the bars, you can scroll over each of the bars to show you when the actual due date was and what the particular score was. But in this particular view, you can't see the individual questions. As you move down, you're also able to see a summary again for those assignments that were completed on time, past due. And then this is really important to look at. A lot of students will start an assignment, but unless they actually hit submit, it doesn't actually get sent to the teacher. So you want to make sure that as you're looking at the student's overview, that anything that's in progress has actually been submitted. And of course, you have the communication piece for those assignments that were not even completed. So this, I like the bar graph at the bottom so I can really see the idea of the completion on time or the lack of completion with the individual assignment. When you go back up to classes, the same tabs that appear up at the top are those same circles that appeared on that home page when you accessed your child's Savas Realize account. You'll be able to get the same information insofar as assignments for the individual names of the assignments within the classes tab of those that are not started, those are in progress. But the part that we're going to focus on is the completed part. Because as we look at the completed part, you'll be able to actually see the assignments that were completed and then their scores. And to actually look at the assignment, you would just click on the assignment name and then click on again the assignment, and it brings up for you the actual assignment, the actual breakdown of each of the questions and whether it was correct or not. So for this particular question, we see the point value, but then you're also able to view the question and see the individual parts. So as you scroll through the assessments, you'll also be identified to the question that was answered incorrectly. And then this would be a nice moment to be able to go through the questions that your child got incorrect, do an item analysis review, discuss what the process was that your child completed, and then go ahead and rectify those steps to see where they possibly made the error insofar as their understanding. So as we're thinking about each of the assessments, you're able to go through the entirety of the assessment to see their progress. One of the things that I encourage my daughter to do is when she's doing any of the quick checks to organize her binder so that she's actually writing the name of the assignment on the blank sheet of paper that she's showing her work. And then that way, when we're going back and reviewing some of the content, I'm able to actually find her work pretty easily and then go ahead and cross-reference with any of the problems that she got incorrect, just so that I have her work to work off of insofar as doing the item analysis review when working through each of the assignments. If you wanted to go back and look at additional assignments, up on the top left-hand corner, you would just click exit. And then once you can go back and you can look at all the other assignments. There may be some assignments where the score is where the score is 0. When I look at this particular homework assignment, it was a PDF file. So although my daughter had to complete it, there wasn't actually any work that she needed to complete within that document. So all of the work she actually did on a sheet of paper, and the teacher just assigned this as almost a task within its learning for just completion of credit. So although the score reflects a 0, it wasn't actually completed for accuracy. It was just completed for correctness. So if that's ever going to be a situation within your child's grade, just go ahead and contact the teacher and they'll be able to clarify how they actually scored that particular part of the assignment. So I'm just looking at questions. So the one question for our child, the grade book in its learning isn't showing anything. We can go ahead and talk to individuals about that. So that would be just the its learning part. Some of the teachers may not have actually scored anything in its learning, but if you look at your home access center, they may have transferred the grades from its learning or even the Savvis Realize platform. All of those grades need to be then transferred to the home access center. So that'll be the actual, if there's not an assignment showing in its learning, you can go ahead and look at the home access grade to see if there's a coordinating grade from the particular assignment and then put into the home access center. Okay, thank you for the clarification. So if you have any questions or think of any questions regarding the Savvis Realize platform, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll be watching it throughout the next presentation.
I think Mrs. Baki had a question too for you. She has her hand up.
Oh, I can't say. I'm sorry, Ms. Baki, go ahead.
Do you want to unmute Ms. Baki?
Sorry, I am on my son's It's Learning here. I don't know if there it is. Oh, sorry. Hold on. So I went to the thing that you said here, and I clicked on my Envision, and then I clicked on this Realize thing, and I have this. I do not have the screen that you were showing, so I could not follow that presentation at all.
You can go ahead, just put your screen up a little bit. It's getting cut off. Just go ahead and click My Work.
Okay.
And is there an assignment?
No, Dark Soul.
Bigger.
So I do have like work completed, which I guess it was just different. I was trying to follow along with your format and I could not at all because this is what I had in my student
Okay, so click
things. So
click the completed work arrow.
Okay.
And then you can click the topic 2 assessment and you'll be able to review it the same way.
Okay. I don't know. All right. Well, I will try to, I'll play with it, but I couldn't follow along. I just didn't have the same things on my screen that you had on yours.
Yeah, so once you click the completed work and then click on the assignment, you'll be able to review that topic 2 assessment. And you just click on the
Okay. Okay. All right. Which I'm just wondering why it was so different from your screen than ours.
What grade is your child in?
4th.
I would have to look into that because when I go through, that's just what it looks like. My daughter's in 4th grade also. That's what it looks like from her end.
Okay.
My 4th grader looks like yours.
Okay.
So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's really,
Thanks,
really different. Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't know.
None of my kids look like that. No.
Mine.
None of my kids look like that. None of mine look like yours, Christina. Mine all look like it. Yeah, okay. Mine look like the presentation Erin shared. I don't know why.
Okay, how odd. Wonder why I'm so different. All right, well, thank you.
All right, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and pass the presentation over to Christy Horn so that she can go ahead and give an overview of the reading assessments. that Habit of Grace will be administering.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here with you, even if it is through the computer. I have fourth graders that go to Habit of Grace, and my husband and I call the time from coming home from school or when school is finished to bedtime the witching hour. So hopefully everyone cooperates, but if you hear kids in the background or a dog, just know that that's going on here too. So I'm going to share with you kind of just a snapshot of the assessments that our students are beginning to take or will take, and kind of give you an overview of the grades who will be taking those assessments and what those assessments measure and some changes that have happened. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you have any questions, if you could put them in the chat, but I'll also take questions after also. So, you know, feel free to ask if there's any questions that you have. So our assessments look a little different this year in that some are the same, some have changed, some names are different. So we'll start with the DIBELS assessment, which stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. This test will be given to students in kindergarten and in first grade. And this is a test that's given one-on-one, so it'll be the teacher and your child. It might also be myself and your child. It could be Nishab, some of the specialists, and we're currently working on a system for assessing. So it may be when your child is back 1 day a week if your child is coming back, but it also may be scheduling an appointment with you to do it virtually. So this test measures phonemic awareness skills and early literacy skills needed for those foundational reading.
Mrs. Horn, I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. We can't see your screen. Can you try to reshare it?
Uh-oh. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's try this again. I'm on, like I can see you all, like I can, like I'm actually sharing. Let's try here.
I can try to share it. Oh, I think we got it. Oh, never mind.
Okay, could you share, Michelle?
Yes, I will. If you want to keep talking, I'll get it up.
Okay, so the assessment, the DIBELS assessment will be, as I said, given to kindergarten and first grade students. That is it's not a new assessment in that it's been around for many years. It's a new assessment to Harford County. So this will be in the place of our Fountas and Pinnell assessment and what's reported on the county level. So the assessments that I'm sharing now are countywide, and I'll briefly touch on you know, class assessments within the classroom, and then also state level assessments. The next test that I wanted to share with you is the foundational reading assessment, and that's given to students in grades 1 and 2. This test, what we would call the FRA, is part of the reading inventory. And this is a measure of foundational skills needed for reading. There are 5 different subtests from letter ID to letter sounds, sight words, and decoding. And students in grades 2, in second grade, would need a certain score on the foundational reading assessment in order to move forward to the reading inventory. So this test was just given last week, and we will be sending home reports about your child's score and what that means. What's important to know about the foundational reading assessment, your child will receive an accuracy score and will also receive a fluency score. So the accuracy score is how many in the strand the child got correct. And then the fluency score is how many of those accurate responses were done in a fluent manner. So when you get the report, I'm going to be attaching kind of a description on what those mean. The next test is the reading inventory, formerly known as the Scholastic Reading Inventory, the SRI. So really, it's not changed other than they've taken Scholastic out of it. This will be given to students in grades 2 through 5. So last week, we finished giving the reading inventory to students 3 through 5. And in the winter, our second graders will be taking it. This is done on the computer. So for those of you who have a child in 3rd through 5th, the students took the assessment on the computer at home. We're hoping that in winter we'll be back and we'll have it done either in the classroom or the lab or at home again. So the reading inventory measures a student's reading comprehension and also understanding of vocabulary. So it'll give a snippet of a Scholastic book. The students don't know the story at the beginning or the end. It's just a brief capture of a story, and then they have to answer a question by reading, inferring, and looking at the vocabulary and choosing the vocabulary word that fits within the sentence or the question. So for our students in 3rd through 5th, they'll be taking this assessment in fall, winter, and spring. Our students in 2nd grade will be taking it in winter and spring. And then the last test is the Fountas and Pinnell assessment. This isn't county-wide this year. However, our school has decided that we're moving forward with the Fountas and Pinnell assessment, and that I think it's the most authentic reading experience assessment, where the child is actually given a passage. We listen to the child read the passage, so we're looking for errors they make in reading, really what they do, what their behaviors are as a reader. And then at the end, we're looking at comprehension questions. So we ask them a series of questions, and then we're looking for responses for questions that are right there in the text, and then questions that they have to infer or think beyond the text to answer. Based on that assessment, if they get a certain score, they can move to the next level. And we keep going until we find their instructional reading level. All the assessments that I've shared, teachers will use to guide their instruction, and these scores will be reported to parents. You'll get a report, and then you'll get also a sheet that explains what the score means, where your child is at this time, what's expected at this time within your grade level, and kind of goals of where we want our students to be by the end of the year. So I know that that was very quick, but I want to honor your time. So I'm going to send it back to you, Kristen, and then take any questions